Enough is enough. We've heard this tired saying whenever a kid gets killed in a black community, and now it looks like somebody is really doing something about it. The Detroit 300. This is an anti-crime, anti-criminal group that comprises of ordinary citizens. Some of these people have records, some of these people don't. Most of them are black because most of the city is black, but there's white people involved, there's people of different religions, and I was listening to the president at a press conference talk about the violence in the city. They had pictures of like 5 or 6 kids, really small kids killed, kidnapped, just beaten, and all kinds of horrible things. You have criminals, just gangs shooting at one another, and kids getting caught up in a crossfire. And the guy was speaking out against it. And what the group is going to do is work with the police, because there's sort of a no snitching type of culture in a lot of these poor black areas, especially in Detroit. And what they're going to do is work with the police and actually go into these hot spots, these high crime areas, and actually make arrests and actually help out the community. They're going to work with the police department. So it's not really a vigilante group, because they're actually working within the framework of the law. They're going to make private citizens arrests, and they can actually do that. And in fact, if you look at Michigan law, yeah. So I mean, Michigan law allows us to actually make arrests, but across the country, in pretty much every state in the union, you can pretty much arrest people if they commit a felony. This is something in pretty much all the states. You have to look it up yourself, but I think the exception, he said the exception was North Carolina, which is really bizarre, you know. But anyway, they can actually go into people's houses if someone commits a felony. You know, they have to announce why they're coming in, but if they're not allowed to come in, then they can come in even if they don't have a warrant, as long as they have someone who had just committed a felony, either in their presence or even if they weren't in their presence. So that's actually quite fascinating. That's Michigan law right here, and of course they. My question is, how do they make these arrests without getting in trouble for making the wrong arrests? They're going to have to be very careful about who they actually arrest, because if you enter someone's house and the person isn't guilty of a crime, you're breaking and entering. You know, does that person have the right to actually shoot you on the spot? If you're coming in thinking that person's a felon, but that person didn't actually commit the felony, do that person have the right to actually shoot you on the spot in defense of their home? Now, is that a home invasion? Those are some of the questions I'm bringing up. I don't think they're vigilantes because again, they're working with the police. They're working with Crime Stoppers, and they're going to actually make arrests. The guy was talking about how they can actually carry concealed weapons as long as they have permits, and I think it's quite fascinating. My question is, because he calls on every man in the community to basically stand with them or against them, essentially. And it's very bold, but there's an issue of, okay, if somebody gets hurt, is that person covered? If the person's unemployed and they get shot or something doing this work, who covers this? Who provides health care? You know, if the person dies, then what about the family? I mean, at some point you gotta put your foot down. But these are just some questions that really pop up into my mind. I think it's a fascinating idea. I'm just saying they're going to be working directly with the Detroit police. However, the problem is that they're going to make themselves targets, and although some of them may have weapons because of CCW laws, they're going to be doing. I think they're going to be doing a lot of the things that the police department should be doing. They're going to be taking a risk, but they're not going to be getting paid, and they're not going to get any of the benefits. So in a nutshell, the president of Detroit 300 said that they're going to go into the most dangerous neighborhoods once a week and do their operations, and they're going to be working with the police. My question is, shouldn't the police be going into the most dangerous neighborhoods, on a daily basis? I mean, come on, and then there's the issue of, when if these guys get shot or hurt? Like, how will the gangs respond now that these guys are talking about we're declaring war on the gangs, and the gang members, you are our enemy? This is what the president was saying. Some of those guys, the Detroit 300, they were in mass. Other guys were not. What if these gangs find these people and find their families? They said they weren't afraid, which, I understand people's urge to really help their community, but my question is, at what point do these guys become sort of like a part of the law enforcement infrastructure? Because they are working close with law enforcement. But I mean, do you think this is too dangerous? Do you think this is something that is absolutely necessary for them to take back their streets? How would the gangs respond to this? How would the gangs respond to this in your neck of the woods in Los Angeles or Atlanta or wherever the heck you're at? Would you consider joining an organization like this? And how do you feel about getting involved? Even if you weren't involved in a group like this, if someone was being attacked, would you actually get involved? What would be the circumstances that will cause you to actually get involved? And do you feel like you have a duty to your community to prevent crime or reduce crime? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Now, let's look at Michigan's laws. Okay, Michigan law. MCL764.21 Quote, a private person may make an arrest in the following situations. A, for a felony committed in a private person's presence. B, if the person to be arrested has committed a felony although not in the private person's presence. C, if the private person is summoned by a peace officer to assist the officer in making an arrest. Let's move on to MCL 764.21 Right to break open, enter, or outer door. Quote, a private person when making an arrest for a felony committed in his or her presence, or a peace officer or a federal law enforcement officer when making an arrest with a warrant, or when making a felony arrest without a warrant as authorized by law, may break open an enter or outer door of a building in which the person to be arrested is located or reasonably believed to be located if, after announcing his or her purpose, he or she is refused admittance.